We've got some good news and some bad news coming out of Miami. The trade deadline is just around the corner, and there's a major report that could be a real game changer for the Dolphins. But before we get into that, let's start with the tough part, injuries. Heading into Week 7, Miami's dealing with some setbacks, especially concerning kicker Jason Sanders. The team's monitoring his status closely, and that could impact their roster moves in the coming days. There are also some key decisions the front office might have to make soon, and they won't be easy ones. Now, let's shift gears to something that could work in the Dolphins' favor, the trade market. NFL insider Mike Kay, who covers the Carolina Panthers, recently reported that an NFC executive believes there could be a shortage of available pass rushers at the trade deadline. In simple terms, a lot of teams want to add defensive pressure, but very few are willing to give it up. That's where Miami could benefit. The Dolphins have depth on the edge and a couple of veteran pass rushers who could draw serious attention if the market gets tight. This could significantly increase their trade value heading into November. Before we go any further, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. And of course, hit that bell icon so you never miss an update on all things NFL. Now, back to the Dolphins. This report could mean Miami gets more in return than originally expected. We're not talking about massive blockbuster deals, but a realistic bump, say, moving from a fifth-round value to a fourth-round return. It's not flashy, but in the NFL, every draft pick counts. And with the Dolphins eyeing long-term roster strength, even a small upgrade could make a big difference. The two players at the center of this trade conversation are Jaelan Phillips and Bradley Chubb, both talented, both crucial to Miami's defense, but each at a very different point in their careers. Let's start with Bradley Chubb, the veteran pass rusher who's been through a lot in recent seasons. Miami restructured his contract this offseason, and at one point, there were real talks about whether he'd even stay on the roster. Chubb's leadership and experience are valuable, but it's clear his future in Miami might be limited. Then there's Jaelan Phillips, younger, explosive, and playing on the final year of his rookie deal. The Dolphins picked up his fifth-year option, but beyond this season, there's still no long-term extension in place. If the front office isn't planning to pay him top-tier money in the offseason, trading him now might be the smarter move, especially if the team is leaning toward being a seller at the deadline. Losing him for nothing would be a tough pill to swallow. And here's the thing. When you look deeper than the box score, Phillips' impact jumps off the screen. Sure, Chubb has more sacks this season, for compared to Phillips' one, but the analytics and film tell a different story. Phillips burst off the line, his balance, his edge setting in the run game. All of it shows a player who's improving every single week. He's faster, more explosive, and looks like he's just scratching the surface of his potential. Meanwhile, Chubb is still trying to return to form after last year's brutal knee reconstruction. ACL, PCL, and MCL all repaired. It's hard to blame him, but he hasn't looked like the same dominant force we saw before the injury. As things stand, Phillips' trade value could be somewhere around a fourth-round pick, maybe even conditional depending on the market. Chubb, given his age, contract situation, and recent performance, likely wouldn't bring back as much in return. It's a tough situation, but that's the reality of the NFL, a league where every decision can reshape the future of a franchise. Miami's front office has some hard calls ahead, and what they decide to do with these two could define their next chapter. Realistically, Bradley Chubb's trade value might sit around a sixth-round pick right now due to his contract and recent decline in production. But here's where things could get interesting. If the trade market heats up and demand outpaces supply, those values could rise fast. Think of it like basic NFL economics. When every team's chasing the same few pass rushers, the price goes up. So while Jaelan Phillips might normally fetch a fourth-round pick, this year's market could push that number higher, possibly into third-round territory. That would give Miami another top 100 selection in the upcoming NFL draft, a valuable chip for a team still shaping its long-term roster. As for Chubb, if the demand really spikes, maybe he bumps up to a fifth-round pick, or Miami could explore a creative deal, like a pick swap, to sweeten the return. The Dolphins front office has shown before that they're not afraid to get aggressive when it comes to trade strategy. Now, before we move deeper into potential trade fits, here's a quick question for you, the fans. Who do you think is more likely to be traded, Jaelan Phillips or Bradley Chubb? Drop it in the comments. Type JP for Jalen Phillips or BC for Bradley Chubb. Let's see where you stand. So, who might actually make a move for one of these edge rushers? Here are 8 teams to keep an eye on. Philadelphia Eagles, always looking to bolster their pass rush for a playoff push. San Francisco 49ers, with Nick Bosa's injury, they could be hunting for temporary edge help. Detroit Lions, after battling defensive line injuries last season, they might want added insurance. Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Indianapolis Colts, both surprising teams this year, possibly ready to go all in with another defensive weapon. Carolina Panthers, sitting at 3-3, they could convince themselves they're in wildcard range and look to buy. Imagine them trading for the very guy who sacked their quarterback earlier this season, Jalen Phillips. If that happens, it wouldn't just be a trade, it'd be a statement. The Dolphins have leverage in this market, and how they play it could have ripple effects across the league. Before wrapping up the trade talk, there's one thing that needs to be addressed: Miami's decision-making at the top. Regardless of whether the Dolphins decide to move players or stand pat, the spotlight will be on General Manager Chris Greer. Greer has been with the organization since 2016, and during that time, Miami has made the playoffs only 3 times, without a single postseason win. For many fans, frustration has been building. There's a growing belief that the team's recent struggles in building consistent playoff success stem from questionable personnel decisions and missed opportunities in key moments. This trade deadline could be a defining moment for Greer's legacy. Every move, or lack thereof, will be judged closely. Miami has the talent to compete, but front office execution will determine whether this team can finally take the next step or stay stuck in neutral. Now, shifting from front office drama to on-field concerns, the injury situation continues to be a problem. Special teams coach Craig Allman recently said he's uncertain whether kicker Jason Sanders is close to returning or if he'll even kick again this season. That's tough news for a player who's been an important piece of the team for years. Thankfully, Riley Patterson has stepped up in a big way. He's been nearly automatic this year, missing just 1 kick, a long 57-yard attempt against the Los Angeles Chargers. His consistency has given the Dolphins some much-needed stability in the kicking game. Still, the constant uncertainty surrounding player recoveries has frustrated both the coaching staff and fans. Too often, return timelines have been unclear or overly optimistic, leaving supporters feeling misled. As the season progresses, Miami needs clarity, both in its roster health and its overall direction as a franchise. One of the most frustrating things for Dolphins fans this season has been the constant uncertainty around player injuries. Whether it's from the coaching staff or reports in the media, the timelines just haven't added up. Take Jason Sanders, for example. We heard he might return in 4 to 5 weeks, but now it's been closer to 7 or 8, and there's still no clear update. To be fair, the Dolphins themselves never promised that early return window, but mixed reports from national outlets have only added to the confusion. Then you look at the offensive line. Both Austin Jackson and James Daniels were placed on injured reserve after Week 1, which meant they had to miss at least 4 games. By Week 6, they were eligible to return, but still didn't. Head coach Mike McDaniel has since said they won't be ready for Week 7 either and might need even more time. So, once again, fans are left wondering what's really happening. Week after week, we're told players are getting closer, only for those timelines to stretch further and further. It's a cycle that's becoming all too familiar for this team. The uncertainty isn't just frustrating. It affects how the team plans for upcoming matchups, how the roster is managed, and how fans view the organization's transparency. Miami's depth has been tested, and until key players like Sanders, Jackson, and Daniels are back on the field, the Dolphins will have to keep grinding with what they've got. Looking ahead to Week 7, the Dolphins are set to face the Cleveland Browns in what could be a gritty, weather-affected matchup. Forecasts are calling for heavy wind and rain, the kind of conditions that favor the ground game. Expect fewer deep shots through the air and a lot more emphasis on the run. That means Miami's rushing attack will be under the spotlight, with Devon Achane expected to handle more carries and Quinshon Judkins potentially seeing additional touches. The Dolphins will need to grind out yards the hard way. It might not be flashy, but in tough conditions, ball security and patience win games. Now, shifting to some roster news, the Dolphins have made an interesting move involving Jordan Colbert. Recently signed from the practice squad to the active 53-man roster, Colbert, originally a safety out of Rhode Island, is officially transitioning to linebacker. Linebackers coach Joe Barry confirmed the switch, saying Colbert's athleticism and physical build made him a natural fit for the role. He's always been one of the bigger, more physical safeties, and the staff believes his future in the NFL could be brighter at linebacker. With Tyrel Dodson returning from injury this week, Miami's updated linebacker depth chart looks like this. Brooks and Dodson expected to start. KJ Britt backing up Dodson. Willie Gay Jr. behind Brooks. And now Jordan Colbert filling in as the fifth linebacker. Colbert could still fill in at safety if needed, but this transition marks a significant shift in his career path. It's a smart, developmental move by the Dolphins, turning a versatile athlete into a potential defensive asset at a position of need. Still, depth remains thin, and Miami will have to rely heavily on health and consistency from its top linebackers heading into the midseason stretch. All season long, fans have been calling for Willie Gay Jr. to get more playing time. And just when it looked like he'd finally have that chance with Tyrel Dodson sidelined, the opposite happened. For the first time since Week 1, Gay didn't play a single defensive snap. At this point, it's starting to look like he's buried on the depth chart, and unless multiple linebackers go down with injuries, we may not see much of him this season. It's a frustrating situation, especially given the flashes of potential he's shown when he's on the field. Still, there's hope that Jordan Colbert's transition to linebacker could eventually pay off and bring some fresh energy to the rotation. Now, shifting focus to the secondary, things are getting interesting at cornerback. Defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver recently revealed that the CB2 spot opposite Rasul Douglas is officially an open competition. Douglas, of course, didn't start in Week 1 as he was still adjusting to the new defensive scheme. But once Storm Duck went down with an ankle injury, Douglas stepped in, and he's been phenomenal ever since. According to Pro Football Focus, Douglas is graded out as one of the top 10 cornerbacks in the entire NFL, solidifying himself as Miami's true CB1 moving forward. Last week against the Chargers, we saw a few changes in snap counts that suggest the Dolphins are experimenting in the secondary. Douglas played every single defensive snap, all 64 of them. Jack Jones saw his playing time dip to 46 snaps, while Ethan Bonner got a small increase, logging 16. We even saw Juju Brents make his first appearance for Miami, playing 3 snaps, his first regular season action with the team. It's clear the Dolphins are trying different combinations behind Douglas, looking for consistency at the other corner spot. And with Storm Duck finally healthy and expected to be active again this week, that competition is about to heat up even more. Anthony Weaver made it clear, just because Duck is back doesn't mean his starting role is guaranteed. Every cornerback will have to earn their spot, and that kind of internal battle could bring out the best in Miami's secondary as they fight to stabilize the back end of this defense. Remember, Storm Duck opened the season as Miami's starting CB1 before going down with that ankle injury. Now that he's healthy again, Anthony Weaver made it clear, Duck will need to earn his spot back through practice and game performance before reclaiming that starting role in the Dolphins' defense. So, the big question heading into this week: who should line up opposite Rasul Douglas? Let's hear it from you in the comments. If you think Jack Jones should stay the starter, type JJ. If you want Storm Duck back, type SD. Or, if you're ready for a new face like Juju Brents or Ethan Bonner, drop their names below. Now, before we wrap up, let's be honest. This Dolphins defense has been rough. Coming into the year, the biggest concern was the secondary, yet ironically, that group has turned out to be one of the few bright spots. And that's not saying much, because the run defense and front seven have been a major problem. The truth is, Miami's defense has been near the bottom of the league, and at this point, making changes can't make things much worse. If any of these adjustments, whether it's Colbert moving to linebacker or rotating new corners, help this defense even a little, that's a win. Shuffle things up, try new looks, and see what sticks. That'll do it for today's show. We'll keep you covered all week as we head toward Week 7, Dolphins versus Browns in Cleveland. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, join the community, and stay tuned for all the latest updates leading up to kickoff.